had the privilege of working with Mike when he was at the Daily News, the Inquirer, and recently in support of NABJ-Philadelphia. Our relationship really grew when he was editor of the Daily News and I was Philadelphia's managing director. From the start, Mike wasn't just fair. He cared deeply, was engaged in the community, and he was trusted. Trust he earned. With a journalist's healthy skepticism, he never seemed cynical. He tried to understand everyone involved and made every interaction meaningful. Later at the Philadelphia Foundation, our paths crossed again after the creation of the Lenfest Institute for Journalism. Long before 2020, Mike was invested in making the Inquirer stronger through meaningful diversity. He was always ready to roll up his sleeves, never just talk, always substance. For 3 years before the pandemic, we worked together on the annual On the Table effort with the Knight Foundation. He too liked bringing people together to break bread and connect, especially strangers. In 2019, he helped elevate direct service nonprofits during our centennial programs and spoke compassionately about institutions and movements striving to do better for our region. As someone who spent years in public roles, maybe one of the few sources here today, I learned journalists could show up with different agendas. Mike didn't just want the facts. He wanted context and understanding. I never felt like a source. It always felt like two guys from North Philadelphia having a real conversation. Mike personified the values I was taught by my parents: service to others, humility, curiosity, excellence, and authenticity. Philadelphians are wired to detect a lack of authenticity, and growing up in North Philadelphia, that detector is even stronger. Mike was never fake. He could spot a fake, and even then, he never lost sight of the humanity in anyone. His smile could say a lot. I've just learned today from colleagues that they call it the side eye. And what was the word, Sarah? Instigate. It was amazing because it was often in my interactions with him in the context where I would ask him about something happening or someone, and he would just tell me everything I needed to know with that look. As I prepared these remarks, I looked for Mike's book on President Obama, and its 3 sections really struck me because while I believe they're a fair representation of the president, they spoke of Mike so perfectly. So he organized this book around these 3 sections: a man of the people, a man of action, a man of conviction. Mike was as Philly can be, a leader and servant in the truest sense. He pursued truth and served others with courage and integrity. As Mike once said, we don't do the work because truth matters. We do this work because truth matters and because every voice in our city deserves to be heard. That sums up my mission and all of my experience with him. Today, as we remember Mike, let us carry forward what he taught us: love this city fiercely, stay true to who we are, and never forget the power of authenticity. That was Mike's gift to Philadelphia and to all of us.
From the jump, Mike made me feel like an old friend. I'll share just one of many anecdotes about my dear friend. I was hired in 2016 by the late Jerry Lenfest, shortly after he bought the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Daily News and donated them to nonprofit ownership. No one understood the potential of this and how to leverage it better than Michael Days: the potential for community, the potential for the diversity of the newsroom, of the voice, and of this market than Michael Days. Great newspapers are a lot like great churches, great sports teams, or great universities. There's a formal and an informal structure within a newsroom. Some people have senior titles to whom others report. Some people simply command respect from everyone around them. Michael Day's truly had both. So when we started the Lenfest Institute, I asked around, who is the soul of the place? Who is the soul? David Boardman said, Michael Day's. Brian Tierney said, Michael Day's. Sandy Shea said, Michael Day's. And Jerry Lenfest said, Michael Day's. So I thought, there's a pattern here. I'll ask Michael Day's to lunch. An idea emerged during our lunch, actually. It was Michael's idea. Michael proposed that we bring the best young journalists of color to Philadelphia for a 2-year fellowship called the Lenfest Fellows at the Philadelphia Inquirer, help launch a half-dozen careers each year, and help make the newsroom more diverse, more inventive, and more youthful at the same time, a kind of win-win. Mike and I agreed that my sole contribution to the selection process would be to stay out of the way. This, too, was Michael's idea. Separation of church and state. Mike knew a lot about church and a lot about state. We agreed simply that the fellows would be highly diverse in every way. Geographic origin, racial diversity, skill set diversity, and gender diversity. A few months later, Mike had selected 6 extraordinary young journalists as the first Lenfest Fellows. They had several things in common. First, they came from all around the country. This reflected Mike's view that Philadelphia should be a magnet, a destination city, a kind of North Star for great journalists. Second, their skill sets were deep and diverse. There was sports journalism, health journalism, data journalism, video, photography, and of course, social media. Third, they spoke Hindi, Arabic, Spanish, and English. And fourth, I couldn't help noticing that they were all beautiful young women. So I asked Mike, how do you think we did on the gender diversity thing? And Mike said, I think we did great. Mike went on to explain that of 120 candidates, easily the top 10 to 12 were women. Mike ran a 100% equitable process. He had simply and resolutely chosen the best candidates for the job. He ran a meritocracy. In addition to their outstanding qualifications, I think Mike was drawn to just anyone and everyone who was underrepresented in a newsroom. When I got back to my desk from Mike's wonderful office with candy and African sculptures and pictures of newsmakers, there's an email from Mike. It says, Jim, it's not too late. If you want, I can fire 2 or 3 of these young ladies and find some substantially less qualified guys as fellows. Adding, there are plenty of them out there. I appreciate you, Mike. While it was often delivered, almost always delivered with a smile or a laugh, Michael Day's let you know exactly where he stood. Of course, he was right about each and every one of the Lenfest Fellows. They've all gone on to wonderful, wonderful careers in journalism, some here in Philadelphia.